he is actually Ministry of Labor in mini style. Already more than 20,000 jobs have been provided by his programs. Now, if I ever find Alauddin lamb, and incidentally I look for it for at least half an hour every day, and the person, the jinni, comes and he said, what are your 2 wishes? I said, my first wish is to have 100 businessmen like Muhammad Abdul Latif Jameel. You want to know my second wish, don't you? Take me away from the Ministry of Labor before I can. No such luck. The jinnis these days are suffering from inflation. You don't find them easily in the markets. I suspect the shortage of labor, of the visas given by the Ministry of Labor, did to a problem in the jinn population also. Are there any jinn here? Okay, now I should finish soon, because once I start talking, I'm a university professor and old habits die hard, and in the university you have a captive audience, not businessmen who can leave in a huff and leave you talking to your partner here. But I'm about to come to my conclusion. Just give me about 75 minutes. Okay, now I want to conclude again with 3 remarks. I always like the number 3. It's a lucky number. The picture many people have of Saudi youth, women and men, is rapidly changing. The Saudis now are different from what they were 5 or 6 years ago. They are much more aware of the market possibilities, much more aware of the value of training. And I am not aware of a single job now that a motivated young Saudi will not do. You find them everywhere. You find them in the supermarkets. You find them in the taxi cars, taxi drivers. You find them even in cleaning and maintenance. And this is something we did not see 5 years ago. I suspect in 5 years this trend will increase. Now, we are having a lot of problems, as you can imagine, trying to improve standards in the private and in the public sector. In the public sector, don't want to go through this, but we are chained with regulations and things, and salaries do not attract good employees. The Ministry of Finance, the litany of all ministers, so I'm not going to repeat it. Nobody loves us, nobody gives us money, nobody helps us, nobody. But nevertheless, we will continue to improve. And I must report to you that the graduates of our technical institution, there are about 150,000 of them, and contrary to what you read sometimes, almost none of them is unemployed. And if there is one unemployed, it must be between jobs. So the future is here, and no matter how some people think our facilities or our training is lacking, the graduates of this institution are not a problem as far as unemployment is concerned. Now we are having to improve a lot in the private sector training, because out of the some 1,000 institutions I gave you, I wouldn't give more than 20% of them a passing grade. We are trying to examine each one to evaluate it, not ourselves, but experts from Saudi Arabia and from outside Saudi Arabia. And of course, there is a big resentment everywhere. Ever since I took this job less than 4 years ago, I became like one of those Western cowboys saying, resentment is my middle name. Now, finally, I want to say that the training sector is not an isolated pocket in society. It acts and reacts to the societal attitudes, mores, and habits and traditions. And if society helps us get off outmoded ways of thinking about practical jobs and what's so-called menial jobs, and there is no job that's menial except dishonest jobs, I think we are going to achieve a lot of progress. You can see that the jobs that get societal approval, we have no lack of training and no lack of employees. Take, for example, electricians. They are almost thought of as engineers, and any number we want of trainees in engineering and electricity we will get, or security. security man is a figure of authority, is almost a policeman, and society looks at him with respect. But we are unlucky with some jobs like barbers or like workers generally in the construction industry. But we hope this is going to change. Now, to sum it up, I'll tell you, we are starting a slow but true revolution in our training. It will take time to flower, and we will need all the help we can get from the society around us, and especially from our stakeholders in the private sector. I personally shall not feel happy or even satisfied unless we have more than 1 million trainees in our institution. I doubt, thank you. Promises. I doubt very much that by that time I'll be the minister, but I hope very much to be around because we do not intend to take forever about it. Thank you very much.
A very realistic view of what's happening in the country. I have, two practical questions here because I've been following this as a journalist. In fact, this week, one of my colleagues was up at the King Abdullah Economic City, about 100 kilometers from here. And the roadmap or the landscape is quite grand. The vision's quite grand, is the way I should put it. And I see you're putting people into the training sector as fast as you can, and there's restructuring and budget going into the education facilities. Can it happen in time to take advantage of the growth that's available today, the blessed revenues coming from the blessed resources in the country? It is a race against time, and is it going to happen fast enough? Because I'm sure you wish that these reforms would have started 15 years ago.
Well, thank you very much. But this is, of course, a very relevant and timely question. And as one philosopher has once said, civilization is a race between education and disaster. This applies to training. We are in a race against time, and definitely if we allow the present boom to go without solving the unemployment problem completely, then we would have been amiss, all of us, in our duties. But we are. This is different from the first gold rush in the 70s. At that time, as I just mentioned, we had 100 trainees. Now we have some 200,000 altogether. So we are not going to let this opportunity slip from our hands, and we are discussing with all those programs you mentioned, especially King Abdullah Economic City, a very realistic program for the training and replacement of Saudis, and these will absorb a very substantial number of Saudis, but highly qualified and in highly paying jobs. We are in daily contact to coordinate about that. Now, I'm sure you talked with my colleague, the Minister of Higher Education, today.
I wish we did.
Oh, you didn't? Well, let me then say, because I'm a member of the higher...
He couldn't make it, but he had somebody else come in.
Okay. In the last 10 years, I can tell you that out of 200 colleges established by the Ministry of Higher Education, not a single one is out of sync with the requirement of the market. So we have problem with some older colleges and universities, of course, but all the new ones are completely, they will not build a college unless they ask us in the Ministry of Labor and in the Ministry of Civil Service, is there need for such universities? And we are giving them the answers, and they are really heading into that direction. Our only problem is time. But we're racing against time.
Yeah, it's despite some of the comments you made at the front end, tongue-in-cheek, as we say, about the relationship with the private sector. You're collaborating with the private sector. I know one of the requirements that they have right now, having talked to a number of the businessmen through our programming, is they need to get the visa restrictions lifted faster, and they want it more liberalized. Again, is it a push and pull? They want people to come in. They want people to take the service jobs. The bankers I spoke to, they need the high-end individuals to be able to grow and consolidate in this very fast-growing region, not just country.
Okay, I think any discussion in the absence of facts will become meaningless. The fact says that last year we imported 1.8 million expatriate workers. I made a quick survey, and it turns out this is larger than the population of 60% of the United Nations members. Now, more than that, I think will be flooded. But let me make another comment about maybe the private sector here. The private sector is such a vague word. I mean, somebody who has مطعم, restaurants or sambusa stand is a businessman. وصالح التركي is a businessman. They lump them together, and I think this talk about businessmen is most confusing. This is why I prefer to say employers and employees. But I'll tell you, the private sector didn't get the lion's share of visas last year. The lion's share went to those who import 4 or 5 workers, and those people do not even own this organization. Actually, this organization are given to those 4 or 5 people who are imported. They do not contribute anything to the economy. They do not contribute anything to Saudization, but they just fill up the country with highly untrained, highly problematic number of expatriates. For the private sector, I told the king, I am a commission agent. Any businessman who comes to my office, I said my commission is 10%. 500 expatriates, 50 Saudis. 1,000 expatriates, 100 Saudis. And that is the rule. Those of you who visited me, of course, they know this is the truth. A lot of you who do not visit me, and I don't know why. Somebody the other day came to see me, and after he left, he had a stunned look, and he told my secretary, I cannot believe it. The minister actually laughs. So I don't think they have some kind of a concept. But please, I'm saying this publicly. This rule applies. You want visas, 10% Saudization, come to my office and get it. A second thing I always ask, and I said, don't come with just numbers. Give me a plan. Now, all the hyper and supermarket, if you can ask them, they have no problem with me. I have no problem with them because they come with a 5-year plan. They said, we need 5,000. 1,000 the first year will employ 100 Saudi, 2,000. With those kind of plans submitted to the ministry, we will have no problem. We have a problem with somebody who comes and he said, I have a subcontract with Aramco for 50 million and I need 7,000 workers. Now those kind of requests do not get. But I'm telling you here, we are making it extremely easy for serious and big businessmen to get their needs. And if somebody doesn't get it, I think all they have to do is to get in touch with me. And I am highly accessible.
Good. I'm going to get out of my chair. You can sit tight because I want to open the floor up to questions.
We haven't started opening the floor.
Yeah, this is the fun part, as they say. Good. Prepare yourself. We have a number of questions. I just want to balance them out to some of the hands that I did not get to before, right? So we have this gentleman here. If you can put the number up. Further back, please. Yeah, number 3. Go to your right, please. I just asked because we only have 10 minutes, just very direct questions. First to number 3, please. To number 3, just a second. To number 3 first. Thanks. Sir, in the back, number 3.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. معالي الوزير، جميع القطاعات الصناعية في المملكة لها احتياجات كبيرة من العمالة السعودية، والجامعات والمدارس بتخرج العدد الغير ضروري أو ما يتطابق مع احتياج